Page 2 now, the 2014 election and desperate Democrats. There are unconfirmed reports right now that early voting is already showing a large edge for Republican candidates overall. Now, that does not mean this thing is over. Far from it. It's not. However, according to Rasmussen, 62% of likely voters believe Republicans will retake the Senate. That is up from 54% in July and just 44% back in January. So the radical liberal group MoveOn.org is now in overdrive, showing its desperation through ad campaigns using old, worn-out lies like the so-called war on women.
If Republicans get enough votes November 4th to take over the Senate, their war on women will get a big boost. And women's economic well-being could take a big hit. First, they'll turn back the clock on women's rights, cutting back reproductive health care, attacking a woman's right to choose. Republicans will fight against equal pay. They have repeatedly voted against ensuring women are paid the same as men for the same work. They will allow employers to discriminate based on gender. Third, they'll fight a minimum wage increase. Some have even argued there should be no federal minimum wage at all. That will hurt women the most because most minimum wage workers are women.
When is that guy going to go away? So are female voters really that shallow? Really? Is it all about birth control and which candidates are running on a platform of outlawing birth control anyway? Meantime, Cosmopolitan magazine is joining the desperate Democrat cavalcade of election hijinks. So what is Cosmo up to? Joining me now from the campus of Arizona State University, from campusreform.org, Lauren Clark. Lauren, so we have Cosmopolitan magazine, we have the 2014 midterm election, we have a party bus, and we have a university in North Carolina. Put that all together. What's going on?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. As you mentioned, Cosmopolitan magazine, so this is a magazine, keep in mind, talking about makeup and dresses. They've had this contest and announced NC State in North Carolina, the winner of it, and they're going to provide party buses chock full of goodies, male models, and other swag. And they're not taking students to a club or a frat party. Instead, they're taking them to the polls to be voting this November. So this is a desperate measure that's both insulting to women and millennials.
So is there any kind of feedback at all from the college co-eds at this campus that, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this free bus and party and vote, I guess, however they're telling them to vote, or are they rejecting this? Is there any kind of recon on this whatsoever?
Yeah, so I think the College Republicans has made a statement on this, just kind of talking about this ridiculous nature. But as silly as this Cosmo party bus is, filled with its male models and everything else, it brings up a really big issue here. And that's the fact that Cosmopolitan thinks that in order to bribe students to vote, they need to provide them with the highest entertainment possible. That millennials aren't distracted enough by the fact that there's 18.2% unemployment in youth unemployment right now in North Carolina. And they think that in order to bring this issue up front, they need to kind of distract them with all this swag. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And as a millennial myself, I'm quite insulted by this.
You should be. You know, I have a daughter who is a millennial too. She fits into that category, and it's absolutely insulting. But clearly what's happening here, first of all, is that Cosmopolitan magazine is trying to influence the election in North Carolina. And one would presume that Cosmo is trying to influence the re-election then of Senator Kay Hagan. Can we connect the dots there at least?
Well, although Cosmo, it was a contest, and we're not exactly sure how the contest came about, but I do think it's quite ironic that the school chosen for this party bus is a swing state for Democrats when Republicans are kind of known to maybe take the Senate this year. So it's quite ironic that all of a sudden this school was chosen among Cosmo.
Yeah.
And another point to this is Cosmo already tells me that they insist on telling me what makeup I should wear, how I should dress, and now they feel the need that they're qualified to tell me how to vote. I mean, it's quite ridiculous here.
And from where I have read, the Cosmo has endorsed candidates and tried to influence campaigns, I think, in this election cycle, and 10 out of 10 have been Democrats. So, you know, I don't even know if they're trying to hide this. This is pretty much an in-your-face, kind of blatant way to hoodwink young people to go and vote Democrat and Kay Hagan and try and influence the election, don't you think?
Absolutely. You know, if Cosmo really was for strong, independent women, why aren't they supporting women that were Republicans running for the Senate? I mean, this isn't about civic duty, about encouraging young students to vote. This is clearly to push their liberal agenda. And it's quite insulting, frankly. And I'm disappointed that a magazine that claims to be for women is advocating for policies that clearly hurt women and millennials.
So I don't read Cosmo. I have no desire to read Cosmo whatsoever. But I would imagine that some of the content probably goes political and probably goes into women's reproductive issues at times, and probably starts connecting the dots that if you vote Republican, then in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be restricted in terms of your reproductive rights. Now, do women your age really buy that stuff? Not the magazine, I mean the message.
Across the country are starting to realize that this is ridiculous. You know, Campus Reform recently released an article, and it was talking about the Harvard poll on campus. And out of the students that were most likely to vote, 51% of them said that they wanted a GOP takeover on campus. So as we're seeing, this is far from the 2008 campaign with Obama, when young people were on fire for these policies. They've realized that 8 years of this is 8 years too much. They don't have a job, and they've had enough of it. So I think hopefully there is hope on college campuses that young people are starting to realize that these policies just aren't working out.
So to leave on a positive note, I mean, obviously you represent a certain faction of millennials, and I want people to realize that you're not alone. You're not some sort of enigma. That there are other millennials like yourself on college campuses throughout the country, and you are the next best hope for this country, and you realize what is at stake. The Constitution is being trampled on, and it needs to be repaired. We need to make sure our rights are restored, and I would assume you would agree that we need smaller government and less intrusion of our government. Are those the principles that you and your friends uphold?
Right, and I'd like to point out the fact that I'm not a loner on college campuses, that things are starting to come around, and they're starting to come around for the better. The Obama administration might be the best thing that's happened to millennials because they've realized exactly what they don't want in a president and what they don't want in a country's policies.
Well, that is an excellent point, Lauren, and I'm sure you're not a loner. In fact, there's someone right behind you right now, so we know you're not a loner. Thanks.